The Buckeye State Sheriff's Association is providing this podcast as a public service for informational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the host or guest of this podcast are their own and may not reflect those of the BSSA, employees of the BSSA, or any of its officials. Any reference to a specific product, entity, opinion, issue, or other such item does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation thereof by the BSSA. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association.
We've come such a long way. We're well respected throughout the state of Ohio and the United States. My passion is hiring smart people and seeing that they get paid well and that everybody comes home at the end of their shift. And that's tough in this day and time.
Welcome to the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association podcast, where we'll introduce sheriffs and deputies across Ohio. During this conversation, you'll get to know the men and women serving you and hear all about the good work being done in the Buckeye State every day. Now let's join your host, Paulding County Sheriff Jason Landers, and today's special guest.
Welcome to the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association podcast. We're here today with the Sheriff Richard K. Jones from Butler County, Ohio. I'm Jason Landers, the Sheriff in Paulding County, the host of today's podcast. We're going to welcome in from southwestern Ohio, about 3 hours from where I'm sitting south of me, is Sheriff Richard K. Jones. Sheriff, welcome in this morning.
How you doing, Sheriff?
I'm doing well, man. Listen, you're going to be podcast number 15. So we started this thing a year ago, and it started kind of as a what we called a pilot program to see if there was going to be a desire for the BSSA podcast. And to this date, I've recorded 14 episodes that we have edited and uploaded. They're on Spotify. They're on Apple Podcasts. It's on our YouTube channel. You can find all that stuff by just searching the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association. And throughout this thing, and as I've been kind of checking boxes and going around the state to different corners, talking to different folks, people will say to me, when are you going to get Sheriff Richard Jones from Butler County, Ohio on your podcast? Well, you know, I'm fighting with Billy Cunningham. I'm fighting with Fox News. I'm fighting to get on the schedule of the sheriff everyone wants to hear. So Rick, talk to us a little bit about what's going on down in Butler County today.
Hey, listen, we house ICE prisoners here in the Butler County Jail. We're up to about 150. 2 weeks ago, we had 0. We got the 287 program, which the federal government gives you the authority to house prisoners. We can house up to 475. We don't know that we'll get that high, but we expect to be over close to 300 within a month. But who knows? Everything's changing so fast. We're also, well, before President Trump was elected and Biden was president, we had 287G also for the investigative part and for the jail part. But when the new president came in, they done away with the investigative part all over the country. And then I fired ICE from my jail when President Biden was president because they were going to fire me anyway. So I fired them first. So they're back in. And with the 287G where you can make arrest, they had that investigative part before, but they wouldn't let sheriffs or law enforcement do any of the arrest of illegals. We weren't allowed to even ask them if they were here illegally. But that's all changed now. So right now, when you get the training, you can actually make arrests on ICE charges once you have the training. I've got 10 deputies going to the training. Originally, it was going to be 4 weeks. Now I think it's 1 week, and the feds are paying for that. But it changes so fast. When you and I were in D.C., the training was 4 weeks. Mr. Holman said the training will be 1 week. And then his staff said they didn't know if they could do it in 1 week. Well, I think those people got fired already. And there's a new group there. This president is moving fast, and we will make arrests. We do deportation from here. Our officers that work in the jail do the paperwork. All of them are sworn in as agents for the ICE. So they have two two positions. But everything's moving so fast. Remember, the president's only been in office, 6 or 7 weeks.
I tell you, he's got his people shaking and baking and bopping and weaving and just trying to stay up with that, reading what gets sent to us and what you go out there to try to find yourself. It can be at times overwhelming with all the things that's happening. But, Sheriff, you know that we went from what most of Americans felt was just an open, unsecure border to, man, this thing's on lockdown. And I don't have specific numbers in front of me, and maybe you do, but, the last I heard, and that's probably when we were out in D.C. at the NSA Midwinter Conference, I mean, you went from, let's just say, thousands and thousands and thousands a day crossing the border to now maybe, 100, couple hundred maybe at most that they're documenting coming across illegally right now, or that they're latching onto.
No, absolutely correct. You're close to the numbers. Just to give you an idea, I've been to the border 3 times. And I'm on the national border committees. I've been doing this for 20 years. And when I first started doing it, the first thing they labeled me as is a racist and a bigot. I had protesters here. And even my Republican Party wasn't supporting me. They were all afraid. The media said I'd be a one-term sheriff. Well, I've been elected 6 times. I'm the longest serving sheriff in Butler County history. But I, like you, sheriffs have a unique instinct. They work for the people. We're the oldest form of law enforcement in the United States. We came over when the colonies were formed. George Washington's father was a sheriff. They called them sheriffs. They came from England. So we've been doing this a while. We have history. And I know what the people in my community want. And I was just a little ahead of my time. But listen, we have close to 20 million people here, Sheriff, that are here illegally in this country. We allow 2 million to come in legally every year. We have 170. I want to repeat this, 170 different forms of visas. The whole system's screwed up. Nobody knows what visas what. The federal government doesn't know. We don't know. We allow 2 million to come in. It's a screwed up mess. There should only be 5 visas. It should be simple. Everybody in America should understand it. But it's all broken, and it's took time to get this way. It just didn't happen under Biden. It's been under Republican presidents. It's just worse under Biden, but they refused to fix it. Ronald Reagan granted everybody amnesty and said we'd never be dealing with this again. And President Bush, the second one, tried to get amnesty again so they could just get it. And he was a Republican, and we fought him. The sheriffs did. So it's a mess. And people forget sometimes, Sheriff, that we border Canada, the northern border. The drugs are pouring through the northern border, which is Canada. The drugs, the people trafficking, the sex trafficking. Every state at this time is a border state, every state.
When we were out at D.C. conference, and I attended the committee that you set on for border security, and one of the things I've talked back here with some of my staff and people just talking about where I go and what I do and what I know and what I learn, and frankly, I admit what I don't know as well, is I did not realize what the northern border what that played into our security issues when you talk about the Canadian border. And listening to some of the sheriffs they're from out west in the border states in the United States, or if you're from New York, I mean, that's a problem in itself. As you talk about, let's just say, for example, fentanyl coming from China over to the cartel, they bring that thing. Everybody focuses on that southern border, and everybody's talking about what's happening from Mexico coming across. But these folks, they're not dumb at what they do. They found a way to go up to the north and infiltrate down across that Canadian border. Can you talk about what you know about that?
Sure. What it is Americans in law enforcement we are referred to as, we swarm. When they're working on the Mexican border, the drug cartel's very smart, very sophisticated, billions and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars. They control the Mexican government. They control everybody. Anybody that comes across the border, they control. But what happens is they'll sacrifice a truck at the port of entry on the Mexican side. Then all the cops swarm, but then they open the border up and let everybody else through. So when we started squeezing, it's like we call it the giant balloon effect. You squeeze the balloon, all the air's out of it in that one area. Well, the air don't leave the balloon, it goes somewhere else. So what they started doing was concentrating on the Canadian border. And with the fentanyl that's coming in from China through Mexico to the Canadian border and the people, there's 5,000 people. I want to repeat that. 5,000 people die in Ohio each year with fentanyl poison. 100,000 die in the United States. In my county, 200 people die, all from the drug cartel. 76% of all the illegal drugs, Sheriff, I want to repeat this, 76% of all the illegal drugs in the world come to the United States. We're a user country. We got to start working on that. But the northern border is killing us. And if you don't think it affects you, no matter where you live, you're wrong. Because here's how it affects you. When you're out on the highway driving, somebody's high on these drugs. Everybody has a family member or a friend that have died of fentanyl poison. All the real hardcore drug users have already died in the last 8 years of the fentanyl poison. Now it's affecting people that only trying drugs for the first time in their life, and it's laced with fentanyl. It's the size of a grain of salt will kill you. And the drug cartel lowers the price so much that you can buy, they'll sell you the pills by large form, the drug cartel, for $5 or 50 cents. And they'll sell it here for $75. They lower it because they want you to get addicted. They want our country to be infiltrated. China, they're not our friends. They want us to be in chaos and fighting with each other, which it's an organized effort against us here. And sheriffs are on the front line. Our bosses are the people. We don't work for city managers or safety directors. We get hired and fired every 4 years. And if you're not performing, you'll get fired. Everybody's your boss and my boss, but no particular person, if that makes sense, Sheriff.
No, you're absolutely correct. And I think you said this earlier when you were talking about presidents of the past, but Sheriff, this is a bipartisan issue as well. I mean, it's not, we can agree and disagree with different things in our values and the way we live our life and the communities that we serve and all these things. But when we're talking about securing our individual counties that we are elected to serve and protect, fentanyl is a bipartisan issue, right? It doesn't really care if you're a Republican, Democrat, or a Libertarian or an independent. I mean, once this chemical gets in your body, and from what I'm told from our people here that take part, we have a drug court in our county, and the involvement with that drug court, these people say it's one time, man. It's not like, and I don't know. I don't know if you can, I don't know if I can go back far enough to know the first drink of alcohol. If I drank it, I thought, man, I'm going to love this stuff forever. I really like the taste of it. Or if someone smokes a cigarette for the first time, that they sense the stink of a cigarette and the nicotine that's in the cigarette and go, man, I'm addicted. But what I do know from people who have fallen victim to this fentanyl is it really is one time, man. They supplement some form of an opiate with fentanyl, and we go back into the heroin times, these things, and it's a done deal. Like you have to have it again, and it's nearly impossible to dig yourself back out of that.
I've been told by drug addicts that the first time, like you said, you're addicted, and what you do is it feels so good, the feeling's so great that you chase to try to find that first time feeling again. And what I've been told by drug addicts, they can never get that first time, but they're chasing it. Like somebody that has an addiction to gambling, you win once or twice, and then sometimes you're addicted to it, and you're always chasing, trying to win, losing your fortune. But in this instance, you'll lose your life eventually. It's playing Russian roulette. And those that don't know what that is, it's one bullet in the chamber, and you spin the chambers and you put it to your head and you shoot. Maybe there's 5 shots in the gun. Maybe it doesn't hit the first time. That's what this is. But we've had all these DARE programs and say no to drugs, but our system, 78% of the drugs that come into the United States means we have an addictive problem. And we've had programs, Nancy Reagan just said no, just say no. It's harder than that. And we've lost generations. But smart people are going to have to figure out how we get this stopped. The Chinese are pumping us into our society. They want us to be addicted. They want us to be lazy. They don't want us to go to work. You get marijuana approved, it's hard to get people to come to work anyway. And alcohol. And then pretty soon, everybody's working from home. Nobody wants to work anymore. It's a vicious cycle. But as sheriffs, we see it every day on the front line. And we see the people, and we hear them talk. And our government moves so slow. Again, legal immigration is the biggest mess you've ever seen. To get into this country, it takes forever. It takes years and years. But here's what I equate this to. People say that, it's okay that these people come in to the country and sneak in. It's not. I equate this with, it's the equivalent of you sitting at home watching television, and somebody opens the door, comes in your house, sits down, you don't know who they are, and they start eating your food and sitting and changing the channel on your television. That's what these people are doing. They've come into our country. They've not been invited. They flood our schools, and they work, and they don't pay taxes. They use the same Social Security number, and they just, the welfare is off the hooks. And with that, our country is hurting right now, Sheriff.
I tell you, I knew we were going to jump right into this. I was talking with Sheriff Mike Simpson. He was a good friend of mine and yours, and we did a podcast here a while back, and told him trying to get Sheriff Jones on this podcast. And we were talking about the script that I have. I call it a podcast layout that I said to people. He goes, Sheriff, take that podcast, just throw it out the window, because you're not going to need it if you get Sheriff Jones on there. And here we are. We're right in the meat potatoes of what I knew we would talk about. But let's lend some credibility to the statements that you're making, because, man, you've been doing this job a long time. You've been doing it longer than me. Tell the listeners that don't know, you talked about being in your 6th term. Tell them when you were elected sheriff, any jobs specifically that you had within your organization. Now, this is one thing I'm not sure of. Did you grow up within the Butler County Sheriff's Office and ultimately run and get elected 5 terms ago? Talk to us a little bit about the resume of Sheriff Jones.
Here's where it started. When I was a little kid, I'm going to go way back, further than you expected. My father was a Hamilton police officer, which is the county seat. I was 2 years, 2nd grade. He come in and put his finger up to his mouth and went, shh, don't wake your mom up. He was changing his shirt from blood being on his shirt. And I'm in the 2nd grade, and I was devastated. My dad was hurt, and somebody hurt him, and his police car was parked out front. And he was changing his shirt to get the blood off of it. I knew then and there I was going to be a police officer. And as soon as I got out of high school, my father was a Hamilton police officer. My mother was a juvenile officer. And I went out of high school. I joined the Army. First, I had a little stint in the oil fields, roughnecking, but we won't spend any time on that.
Okay.
I was going to get rich, but it didn't work out. So I joined the Army. I volunteered for the draft, 2 years, never went to war, drank a lot of whiskey, had a lot of fun. I was single, got out. And my dad at that time was working in the prison system. So I went to work at Lebanon Correctional Institution. Then my brothers followed in our footsteps with my father, and my 2 brothers worked there. I worked there 17 years at Lebanon, and went through all the ranks, made it to major, lived on prison property. But that's where I got my start. And during that whole time, I went to school, got my associate's degree, got my bachelor's degree, went to Xavier, got my master's degree, was an adjunct professor at Wilmington College, Southern State Community College, co-authored a book entitled Behind Bars. But my father used to take us to the prison to get haircuts when I was kids. The inmates would cut our hair. In 1993, Sheriff Gabbard got elected sheriff in Butler County. And he asked me would I come to work and be his chief deputy, which is the number 2 guy. And my experience mostly was all in the prison system. I was a special deputy for probably 25 years for the sheriff's office, but never worked. Went to the police academy. Then when I went to work for Gabbard, I had to go to the police academy again. It was a little harder because I was a little older. But I was the chief deputy for 12 years. I've been the sheriff going on my 6th term, and I'm very controversial. I say what I think, and I enjoy my job. I love it. My son's a cop in Greene County. My son-in-law is a cop, been a cop for 35 years. My wife worked in the court system my mom, my sister, all my brothers worked in the prison system or the jail system. So shop talk for me at my house was punks and thugs. So that's a long rendition of where I got my start, my friend.
Man, it's very good, and I appreciate that. I mean, some of those things I knew just from following you or paying attention to you if I'd be around you or talked a little about hearing you do different radio or television interviews. So some of those things we knew, but a vision for me when this podcast came about was to connect sheriffs and deputies with the communities that they serve because, as you mentioned, in the law enforcement community, the county sheriff is the only elected police officer in the state. So there's only 88 of us. And, you're more tenured than I when I've been a part of my training process when I just got elected to my fourth term. So I'm a little bit behind you, and I've been able to watch you and kind of listen. And as I have with other sheriffs that I kind of am drawn to because, I trust their opinions. You and I talked, we were at our training in February that we referred to in Ohio as sheriffs only because only sheriffs are at the training getting the required hours that we have to have, but picking your brain, and I don't care if it's on political visions or something, which is not really the basis of this podcast, but if it's political visions or if it's work-related stuff that you might have knowledge to, I'm not the only person, I'm sure, that reaches out to Sheriff Jones and says, hey, how do you do this? Have you ever done that before? So we appreciate someone with your tenure that's had some success. So when we talk about you being elected 6 times, you've been obviously successful, but do you seek opponents each time? And I know the answer to this question, but I'd like to hear how you answer the question when you talk about having opponents in your elections every 4 years.
It's not the most fun you ever had in your life. Anybody that tells you they love elections and it's the most fun they had in their whole life, they're really a sick individual. It's not fun. But people attacking you and making stuff up on you is not fun. And all you can try to defend yourself, but it's like feathers in the wind. Once they throw this stuff out there, you can get some of it back, but you can't get it all. I've had one opponent that ran against me 3 times. Best opponent I ever had. I encouraged him to run every time. Here, they're all Republicans. But at one time, it was all Democrat, but everything switched. So I've not had an opponent in the last 3 times, but I run every single day. I eat at mom and pop restaurants. I go to regular places. I don't go out and party. I smoke a cigar at a cigar place in the winter where they don't have good ventilation. Very good. But I smoke it, then leave my clothes all outside. You can't smoke in your offices because they'll get the smoking police on you. It's a very unique, sheriff is very unique. And it's the most, I always wanted to be the sheriff when I played the Cowboys and the sheriff and Cowboys and Indians. I guess I can say Indians. It's hard for me to say indigenous people. I never played Cowboys and indigenous people. We played Cowboys and Indians. And it was fun. But listen, sheriffs are the most unique form of law enforcement, as you said. Our bosses are the people. And if we're not listening to the people, they need to fire us. And I'm one of those individuals when we have sheriffs only training. I sit in the back. Seats aren't assigned, but I sit back with a sheriff that's got as much time as I do, Sheriff Barker, and neither one of us can hear real well. We think we're whispering and we talk too loud. And then people have to come back and say, hey, shut the hell up. You guys are talking too loud. It's disturbing the instructors. And we say, well, we'll tame it down. We don't do it on purpose. But, when people can't hear well, we both wear hearing aids, but I don't wear them. I still got them at home. He does. But we think we're whispering, but we're not. But I enjoy seeing everybody, and sheriffs train, mandatory training. We train. And then once we get our mandatory training, we still go to these meetings. So we learn more after it's over, out of the classroom, and we learn in the classroom. But you being the boss of all the sheriffs, almost like herding cats.
Well, it is. And, and to your point about, talking in the back of the room and folks that have some sort of hearing impairment, and there are a lot, right? So we've implemented, and that training in February is the first time since I've taken over the training education committee, and we're going to implement the microphones, and we're going to try to be a lot more vocal and be able to be heard throughout the whole training room, because, there's training sessions we have coming up here, and probably May there'll be 160 people in there. So for guys even like me that have a deep voice and can be very very loud and dynamic when they speak, that microphone helps everybody in the room, and then a lot of times kind of tames those conversations that those little breakout sessions that happen from time to time when folks just can't hear what's being said. So Sheriff, let's turn a little bit back to Butler County, right? So if you're familiar with the landscape of the state of Ohio, Butler County is situated down in the southwest corner, due north of Hamilton County, which is Cincinnati. Talk to the listeners a little bit, if you will, because this thing goes anywhere there's internet. It's going to go across Ohio, across the United States, maybe even across the world. Talk a little bit about the community, sir, that you serve. What's some of the cities, the towns, even I kind of like a lot of times the school districts, if you're into that kind of thing, what kind of success is going on there? Talk to us about Butler County.
Butler County is the 7th largest county in the state of Ohio out of 88. Population's about 400,000. Sheriff's office, we have 500 employees. I have close to 1,000 prisoners, give or take whatever day it is. Our budget is $60 million. Our payroll is $1.4 million. That's just the sheriff's office. We have 2 helicopters. We have a helicopter pad here, commission, the lowest sales tax in the state of Ohio, Butler County is. They have no debt. Everything's paid for. They're probably sitting on $150 million. They done the Doge thing here back in the recession, and there is very little fat, if any, and the school system. But if you're looking at where this county sits, we're between Cincinnati and Dayton. Both places are sanctuary cities. We are not. We have great school systems here, and big school systems and small ones. The county seat is Hamilton, Ohio. Population's probably about 60,000. Westchester is pretty close to that. That's a township. And then the city of Middletown, probably 40,000. Used to be full of factories. Factories are all gone. We sit on I-75. There's a regional airport here in Hamilton, Ohio. We have what's touted as the best water with the aquifer here, best water in the country. That's what they say. And I've been drinking it a long time. Police and fire, it's great. Good life squads, good roads, but there's no debt. And which most counties have 87 others. Like I said, lowest sales tax, which is important, and the lowest debt ratio of any county. So it's a pretty good place to come. And they will not raise that sales tax. They stay on it pretty good. We're building a brand new dispatch center. $30 million with us and the coroner's office, $30 million. We will have 29 consoles and call takers in the new dispatch center. We take like 2.5 million push-to-talks on the radio a year. That means pushing the talk on the radio. 2.5 million, 250,000 phone calls. Pretty awesome place. And I gave you the Reader's Digest version. Those of you that, when I say Reader's Digest, the younger listeners are going, what the hell is a Reader's Digest? So I have to define it. It was, back in the day, it was a book with short stories, page and a half, 2 pages. And people kept them in the restroom, if you know what I mean.
And that was my kind of reading. I wasn't much of a reader when I was growing up, so that Reader's Digest was perfect.
Yeah, you read the whole story in 2.5 pages. It's a book full of short stories. So when I tell my young employees, give me the Reader's Digest version, I know they have no idea what I mean.
Well, I would be
So
accused
that's
of not
Butler
knowing
County,
what
my
that is
friend.
because I'm told I talk a lot. I'm not sure when people ask me, but a perfect way of learning for me would be the Reader's Digest or listen to a good Paul Harvey segment, and you could get pretty educated back in the day. Sheriff, talk a little
Yes,
bit, if
sir.
you will, about changes that you've seen over 35 years. And there's going to be, there's probably a lot of them out there, but this is a question I've been asking doing these podcasts just from your vision, doing all your work within the Lebanon Correctionals and Butler County Sheriff's Office. Talk a little bit about changes that you've seen over your time.
Listen, when I came here to the sheriff's office in 1993, wasn't that long ago, they didn't have cell phones. There was no computers. So the biggest changes I've seen is computerization and cell phones. The cars just were going to where they had phones hooked up in the cars. They had Nextels, which were like walkie-talkies. Now, everybody has a cell phone. Everybody has a computer. And the technology, when all of our power went out and we lost all of our computer system, we were hacked by an outfit out of Russia. We had to go to paper only for 30 days. My younger employees were freaking out because they everything's done by computer. They were born with computers. My older employees were going, thank God, I hope we never go back again. Because they were having to write reports. So the technology and the communication between law enforcement, used to we'd have to send teletypes out in the older days. Now, with a push of a button, or you can monitor, you can see what's going on all over the United States. When somebody shoots somebody the next state over, we all know it if they're coming our way. The technology, if kids are kidnapped, we've got that system that works. It goes throughout the United States and through all law enforcement. And the technology is so fast, the facial recognition and the weaponry and the training and the documentation. It's all changed. The only negative it makes it hard is the frivolous lawsuits on law enforcement. And people don't know this listening. You have to be self-insured. Our county is self-insured, which makes me insured. Sometimes they sue you personally. And it's a tough environment, but you got to be prepared. But I would say the technology, my friend.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, and that's becoming probably the most popular response is just different forms of technology and how that works within our agencies. We're going to take a second and pay the bills right here, Sheriff. So we're going to take our ad break, and we're going to come back from the break. We'll continue on with Sheriff Richard K. Jones out of Butler County, and we're going to dive a little bit more into the Butler County Sheriff's Office, and I got some questions for the sheriff about some things that I think he's really, really good at, and that's with mutual aid and helping folks like me that might need some resources that he has to offer, and we'll break all that down after this break.
This podcast is sponsored by the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association. The BSSA is in Columbus, Ohio, and was established in 1931. The Buckeye State Sheriff's Association was formed to perpetuate an efficient organization of Ohio sheriffs and their deputies. BSSA provides an exchange of information pertaining to the duties, methods, and official practice of its members. The association also exerts such influence as may be necessary to bring about and preserve legislation in harmony with the needs of enforcement officials and the safety of the public. The BSSA supports the efforts of this podcast to promote Ohio sheriffs and deputies and their mission to serve and protect the citizens of Ohio.
Welcome back to the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association podcast. We continue on with Sheriff Richard K. Jones out of Butler County, Ohio. This is an interview I've been looking forward to for a long time. We were finally able to get this scheduled late last week and take care of it today, get this recording up. It's going to be up the 1st of April. The first Monday in April is when this podcast will air. Talked about it in the onset of the interview. It'll be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube channel, all by searching the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association. So we continue on, Sheriff. We talked a little bit about the size of your agency. You've already knocked out a couple of those things that I would talk about at this point. And one thing I want to talk about with you is mutual aid. So folks that are in our world or in our business understand what that terminology is and what it means. And through different interviews using at different speaking engagements. I will talk about that here locally because we've had a couple situations. And again, you said you're, I think, the 7th largest by population county in the state of Ohio. I think I'm the 5th smallest by population. So if we have a major event that happens here, it's likely that I have to reach out to our neighbors to call in some resources. And I'd have to go back nearly 10 years, but unfortunately, we had an airplane crash here in our county, and we needed some aerial views as we were handling that on a local level through the sheriff's office here, and reached out to you and your team for use of your helicopter to come down and help us be able to take care of some of the aerial stuff we wanted to do. Of course, it was before we had drones and some things we could handle today, but I appreciate that 10 years later. I appreciated it then. And I'm sure many others do when they use your resources. Talk to the listeners, if you will, about some of the mutual aid events that you're called out to, and then when you get the opportunity, more specifically about an entity you have within your organization or that you're a part of, where you even go across the country if needed to help others in need.
Basically, we assist each other. Pike County, when they had the 8 or 9 killings, all 88 sheriffs responded. Because the sheriff's office was overwhelmed at that time. I sent trailers down there. All the sheriff's office sent police down there. They sent deputies down there. We participated. That was just one example. Any other examples? When an officer is shot and killed, we have a case-on unit. We all cooperate. When there's any disaster that happens, we all have mutual aid. We share our resources. And we share our helicopter with everybody. We used to do marijuana eradication. I don't know if they're still going to do that. If marijuana is legalized, I would assume they still would because of the regulations. And we're the only sheriff's office of 88 that have helicopters. The state of Ohio has them, which is the Highway Patrol. And I believe Columbus PD has them. That's it. We're it. And used to, there was a lot more. We have one brand new helicopter, and then we have one OH-58 that was in Vietnam. Everything on it's brand new. We keep it up and running. We have a helipad here at the sheriff's office. We share vehicles. Anything that's available, we share. Now, we have a special unit that's called the Emergency Response Team. They've been deployed all over the United States, as far as New Mexico, Florida, New York for riots. We've been deployed North Carolina. We sent dispatchers, special trained unit of about 15 to 20 men and women, and we've got a semi-truck trailer that is fully equipped for command structure. We have boats. We do swift water rescue. We do mudslides. We've been to Louisiana. The swift water boats, they get deployed all the time for floods. We have people that can work the command posts when they have riots. Like I said, we've been to 22 different, maybe 25 different locations. We have radio backup. We have tents for our people to stay in. We have a hazmat unit. This is not what I refer to as your grandfather's sheriff's office. Sheriffs have evolved, and our sheriff's office, we like to believe, are second to none. These are all people that are trained by the feds. We're typed as a type 1, type 2, where we go when the FEMA does a call out, we usually get activated somewhere. Now, New Mexico is a long ways to go. We go for a little bit of everything. And to haul this equipment, if you've ever been in the military, something always breaks down because we'll send 16 people. Cruisers, trucks, tractor trailers, generators, boats. And we go in caravan. When Katrina hit, we go in caravan. And we were there before the federal government got there. And I flew in by a private jet. Somebody offered the jet, and I flew the jail doctor and 2 other doctors in. It was a total disaster. And if you've ever been to these things, it'll shock you. Sheriff Simpson went with me. And a funny story about him, he was a lot younger then, and so was I. We were in this helicopter flying over in Louisiana and Mississippi at Gulf Shores. And as we're flying, they had the doors off this helicopter. And I had my arm hanging out the side of the helicopter, hanging on for dear life. And Simpson, he wasn't scared, and he was taking pictures. Now, remember, the doors were off his helicopter. He said, "Can you move your arm?" And I said a real bad word that rhymed with Chuck. And I didn't say the word because they'll take it off the podcast. But I said, "My arms stand right up here because I'm hanging on." So when he got back and those pictures were developed, all those pictures on that side of the helicopter had my big hairy arm on them. And I wasn't moving. But it was a unique experience. And people ask, well, why do you travel all over the country like that? When you have a disaster here, you can go to all the classes and training you want until you actually get in the ring and start dancing around. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. All the training, muscle memory is great, but it's better if you get some practice at it. If you go there, if we need help, they'll come to you. So that's a little bit about our emergency response team. We're in the process. The commissioners are getting ready they're looking at changing the EMA and possibly putting that under the sheriff. That'll be the second time that's happened in the state of Ohio. And there's some people arguing about that, but I believe it would be best for this county.
Well, Sheriff Jones, I want to tell you on behalf of all of our law enforcement partners, because I've had the opportunity to call you and get no hesitation and get help. We appreciate it when you're sending your folks out to help those of us that are in need. Tell us, if you will, what's your passion about law enforcement? I mean, we've had a lot of discussion thus far in the podcast about a lot of different things, and I think we can get a sense of what drives you a little bit. But tell the listeners, if you would, what is your passion about law enforcement and what drives you every day to serve your citizens?
Any way that we can make it better, not the same old, not your grandfather's sheriff's office or your great grandpa or your father's sheriff's, anything we can do to make it better. Sheriffs across the country for years and years had used cars, they had used chairs, used furniture, used guns. We didn't all look the same uniforms, the same cars. We've come such a long way. We're well respected throughout the state of Ohio and the United States. My passion is for the employees here and for the Buckeye sheriffs that we have that respect and we have that to where we actually steal people from police departments. That was unheard of 25 years ago because the pay was so low. The pay is up. The benefits are good. We recruit young people out of the academy and they're second to none. My passion is hiring smart people and seeing that they get paid well and that everybody comes home at the end of their shift.
Amen to that.
And that's tough in this day and time.
It sure is. Sheriff, we're going to turn to something a little more, I guess, personal to me and my wife. We were talking about this. I was telling her you were coming on the podcast. She's as excited as I am to hear what you have to say and answering these questions. But when we hear that the Sheriff Richard K. Jones of Butler County, Ohio, is going to spend some time with Big Willie, with Billy Cunningham on AM 700 down in Cincinnati, like we will set a timer or stop what we're doing. She's really good at finding it on a podcast afterwards when she's walking or whatever, and she'll pull it back up, and I've done that as well. But, talk to people here in Paulding County, Ohio. If they know Sheriff Jones, it's because they've heard him talk to Billy Cunningham on AM 700 at noon, or there's a lot of us that might catch you on a national interview like Fox News or something like this. If folks are just tuning in, we're talking to Sheriff Richard Jones down in Butler County. He's probably best known across Ohio for many things, but the cowboy hat that you wear, the mustache that everyone's gotten to know. Talk to me about Billy Cunningham. When he calls you or texts you and wants to talk with you, I mean, talk about an episode with Billy Cunningham. I just can't get enough of him. I love his personality and the way he just carries on with his show, and he's been doing it forever, probably as long as I've been alive. Tell us a little bit about Billy Cunningham.
Billy Cunningham is a very unique individual. When he calls, sometimes he'll call me at midnight and we'll just talk. We're friends. And his wife is a retired appellate court judge. Anytime he and I would be on the radio, she'd close the court down. Her and her bailiff would go in their office and they'd laugh their ass off. And I asked her, was I funnier than him? She said, yes, but the both of you together are hilarious. Anytime that they call me and tell me we're going to be on air, or Bill, and I'll say, well, what are we going to talk about? And they'll tell me, guess what? He doesn't talk about any of it. And it's live. So you got to be on your toes when you're on the Bill Cunningham show. And Hey, and when you go out with him, he's the exact same way as he is on the radio. And you got to be careful where he leads you, because he'll lead you in a foul way and you'll make a mistake. But I'm pretty good at this. Let me give you an example. If I can do CNN live, and which I don't mind doing, I irritate them more than anything else, but I'm not afraid of them. Or like 3 weeks ago, I was on NBC, the Lou Holtz show. They flew in 5 people from New York City to come down here and kick my ass on an interview over this sign I have up at my jail that says illegal aliens here and an arrow pointing to it. And they thought they were going to kick my ass. 5 of them for 6-hour interviews and for 2.5 minutes on the Lester Holt show. And they're not my friends. I've done Saturday Night Live. They're not my friends, but you get your point out even on what I call the enemy channel, which is NBC, CNN, ABC. These people aren't my friends, but I still go on. They can't kill me. And I've been doing this a long time. I'm very well educated, and I don't need a script. When President Trump came to town the first time he was running, he was at the U.S. Arena, 25,000 people. I was the keynote speaker. I was the warm-up act, and I didn't have a script. I talked for 15 minutes, and then they waved me to talk for another 10. No script. I gave a better speech than the president did. And I had the crowd screaming. Listen, I've been blessed with being able to tell stories and speak well. So I've just been blessed. And sheriffs sometimes have a lack, sometimes in communication skills. They want to stay away from the media, and I get that. But we need the media. I do live videos and media from here. They used to drive me to Cincinnati to be on all these national shows. We took a closet and turned it into a green room. We do all of our interviews from here, and we've got a pretty good setup, and we do live. The sign that I have out front that said illegals here, and it's a big yellow sign with an arrow pointing to it, that's been in every newspaper in the country. And people ask me why I have that here. I've had it up and down for 20 years. When the federal government said there wasn't any illegals here, I wanted to know, yeah, they are. They're in my jail. So that's why it's up. And I have protesters here. A lot of sheriff's offices don't get that. I'm a lucky man. The nuns will come and protest sometime, and I send all my Catholic employees out to talk to the nuns. They're still scared of the nuns, by the way. And I have people come here and chain themselves to the doors, and the media will call me and say, will they be arrested? I said, they've come to the right place. And if they chain ourselves to the doors, we had some protesters here that had some misspellings on their signs. I sent somebody out with a Sharpie to correct the spelling. Because if the dumbasses want to be out there, they need to have the spelling corrected.
Well, so it's a one-stop shop, right? I mean, you've got the space for them, you've got plenty of bed space for them. And listen, and if they don't follow the rules within your jail, Sheriff, you have a special meal that you serve them, correct?
It's called the Wardenburger. Now, we get inspected by the state of Ohio, and they don't like my Wardenburger, the prison system. All sheriffs get a jail inspection. But listen, the prison system in Ohio uses it, but they only use it if you use food as a weapon. We use it here if you misbehave, fight with each other and don't abide by the rules. You get a little confinement, and you get the Wardenburger, which is fiber, lots of fiber, and you get all the water you can drink. And the state digs me, stating that I should not do that, but my prosecutor says that I can. So when I look at the state, then I look at my prosecutor, who is my legal attorney. I do what my prosecutor says is okay. And that's the only little spot that I get. And now they can stop me from serving that. They can sue me here in common police court in Butler County. And what I would like to say today is good luck.
That's awesome. Hey, a couple questions before we finish up the podcast interview. I'm going to turn back to a law enforcement question again. Sheriff, what's a hurdle that you see before us in law enforcement, something that's a bump in the road that we have to collectively work over? You're as good as any as working with our legislature in both chambers. Right now, we feel collectively as an association, we have some pretty good leadership in there, be able to do some things that'll help and maybe benefit law enforcement in Ohio from as far as the legislature is concerned and the governor and things of this nature. What's a hurdle or a couple of things maybe that will come to your mind that's presented to us right now in our profession that we are working on or need to continue to work on to better serve our constituents?
Listen, we work well with the legislatures, both parties. We go together. We try to get legislation introduced that will help law enforcement, and we try to stop legislation that's getting introduced that will hurt law enforcement. For example, if we can get to where law enforcement, they're trying to fix it to where when law enforcement gets sued, they can sue you and you have no immunity. They can sue your wife, they can sue your kids, and your insurance company that you insure in each county won't protect you. You can be prosecuted and put in prison, and you have no rights, no say-so whatsoever. And those are hurdles that we have to watch and make sure that they don't take more authority away from us here in Ohio, all law enforcement. And we got to fight for that every single day, so that the left side doesn't get hooked up with a judge to take more of our authority and our power away from us. And they will if you don't watch it. And we have lobbyists, even sheriffs do, and we have to fight them every single day, not only for good legislation, we have to fight them on bad legislation. And been doing it for 48 years, and it's not changed a bit. But the sheriffs are pretty well organized. We work good together, and we work good with the legislatures.
Well, when you talk about qualified immunity, it is one of the most important things upon us, and that doesn't affect just law enforcement. Right? I mean, you're talking about school teachers and a lot of other people that this thing, this animal coming at us. You're right; it's important, and we need to stay abreast of that. That's for sure. Well, Sheriff, is there anything that we left out? Any other topics you'd like to discuss, or any comments you'd like to make?
Listen, it's been a pleasure to be here. I'm a lucky man. I've been doing this a while, my whole family, and I work with sheriffs across the country and in Ohio that are some of the best people I've ever known in my life. And I've got employees here that we train well. We're very fortunate. They look sharp. They do a good job. They risk their lives every day like we all do. We're just one lucky group of people to even be in the field that this is a passion. It's not like being any other job you ever been. This is a passion, and a lot of families have tradition of being in law enforcement. And I'm fortunate to be one of those, my friend.
Well, Sheriff Jones, I'd like to thank you for being a part of today's episode. We would like to thank the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association for their sponsorship. For Sheriff Richard K. Jones, I'm Jason Landers. I'll be right back here next month featuring another Ohio sheriff or deputy on the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association podcast.
Hi, my name is Bob Cornwell, and I'm the Executive Director of the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association, located in Columbus, Ohio. Thank you for listening to this podcast today. It was brought to you by the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association. With this podcast, we are striving to introduce you to sheriffs and deputies from around the state of Ohio and recognize their great work they do every day for the citizens of Ohio. For more information about our organization, Google Buckeye State Sheriff. Thank you.